Welcome back to another video, everybody. Today, we have something a little bit different for all of you. I announced this last week when we finished the final map, Archaeonos, for our Tier List Tuesday series. I mentioned that I would be doing a tier list of all of the map packs themselves. What's the best sort of bang for your buck? I'm not actually going to go through the gem or monetary value of the maps here, or the map packs here rather, but just going through the map packs themselves, which ones I think are the most worth it to get. I think they're all relatively priced the same. A couple of the ones like the Dune map pack that has more maps than the average might be a little bit more as far as the gems cost goes. However, I think that's a good segue into what our methodology is for the ranking here. This is an entirely analytical approach of ranking the map packs based off of my subjective choices with Tier List Tuesday as a whole. So throughout the duration of this video, I will run through each of the map packs, and I'll have a graphic that shows each of the maps, what their overall ranking was on my tier list. So the higher the number, the lower they were rated. For example, the number 1 overall map will be 1. That's the top of the S tier. The 135th map will be number 135 at the bottom of F tier, and the graphics will reflect that. The maps that we did not review that are not currently in the game are part of those map packs. If they ever return, I will mention them, but they will not be displayed in the graphics themselves. And finally, all map packs have a minimum of 4 maps. Because of this, the way that I'm rating the maps is for maps that are larger than 4 maps, there's going to be, or map packs rather, that are larger than 4 maps. There's one that is 6. There are several that are 5. There actually is one that is normally 7, but again, it includes 2 maps that are not part of the game. So I'm basing it off of the maps that you actually have access to. However, the maps with 5 or more, only the top 4 maps will be counted in the average. So we're averaging the placement together, and then that average score is being compared against all of the other map packs. And I've created some thresholds where I think like the B and C or C and D tiers split even if the averages are close to each other. So the reason I decided to exclude the 5th or 6th maps in some of these cases is you're getting more maps getting that pack. I don't think it's fair to include the lesser maps in that pack in the average when these other map packs only have 4. So if you're getting a map pack with 5, I mean, that's an extra map. That's awesome. So I think it's only fair to include the first 4, because there are 5 map packs that don't really have a good map in them. And we'll get through those, and I'll have graphics. I spent several hours today compiling graphics that I won't have live here, but they will flash up on screen during the edit for an extended period of time, so you can see the information there, what maps are part of each map pack, etc. And I have a spreadsheet that I'll be working off of as far as reading some of these ranks and giving tips and tips and pointers on each of the maps as we go. I won't be doing comprehensive reviews of all of the maps throughout this. I will just be noting some highs and lows of each map pack and what I like about some of the specific maps that are included in there, if they really stick out to me, or dislike about some of those maps as well. So we will be doing them in alphabetical order, but before we begin, I do want to touch on the 3 maps that are not part of the map packs. I have a graphic for that as well, which you'll see on the screen right now. And those are the classic map, the Ebuy land map, and the Archaeonos map, which we looked at last week. Classic in the B tier, Ebuy and Archaeonos both in the D tier. I believe eBuy and Classic are free, available with the game, and then Arcanos, obviously a limited time only map. But there's no way you're going to be able to purchase these maps because they're not part of map packs. So I wanted to mention them, but they are not going to be part of this tier list as a whole. Now, without further ado, let us begin with the Advanced map pack. So Advanced is our first one alphabetically here, and this map, well, I'll place it in its tier first. This one is already up in S tier as we begin. The Europe Advanced and Canada Advanced maps in this map pack are both S tier maps. Even with a relatively lacking Africa Advanced map, this map pack excels. It shoots right to the top of our S tier on our board, and it's a shame that it's alphabetical because we start out with S tier very early. But this pack is great. It has an aggregate average score of 30 as far as the ranks go across all of the maps. And there are 4 maps in this map pack. Obviously, you see them on screen. However, Russia 2010 Advanced, if it ever returns to the game, would be included in this map pack as well. So Europe Advanced, we covered a long time ago. You see it on the channel all the time. One of the most popular maps. This one, you really, really can't go wrong with. Big fan of the Advanced map pack, which leads us into our second Advanced pack. It's Advanced 2. Now, the highs on Advanced 2 aren't quite as high, but the lows also aren't quite as low, with an average score of 28.75. As far as the rankings go, this 4 map pack will actually jump Advanced 1, and Advanced 2 takes over the top spot already early on. New Zealand and Australia Advanced is one of my favorite maps. I think it has tremendous replayability with blizzards and various bonuses that can be held without being overly powerful on 1 or 2 point holds anywhere on the board at any given time. And then I think Ottoman Empire Advanced is super underrated, and both United States and Roman Empire Advanced give better versions of both of those original maps and sort of outweigh the lows of like an Africa Advanced, and then obviously US Advanced when compared to Brazil is ever so slightly higher. These 2 map packs are very, very tight in terms of which one is better, but based off of our rankings, Advanced 2 will be jumping into that top slot, which brings us to the Among Us map pack. Now, the Among Us map pack has the airship as its main appeal. I think that is a great map, certainly very unique, both being very large, also very Kilguardy, etc. But the other maps all play out fairly similarly. Some I prefer far more than others. Like I think Fungal and Mira are playable. I think Skeld is a pretty awful map that snowballs too much. The Among Us map pack comes in with an average score of 63. That puts it into, with the breaks that I have, into the C tier. Perfectly average map pack, very reasonable, has a pretty decent high, but also some pretty unfortunate lows. That is a 5 map pack. The reason it's at 63 again is because the Skeld is not going to count against the score because we're only taking the top 4 scores of each map pack. That brings us to the community map pack. And I'm trying to get through these quick so you get digestible information on each one. So I don't want to spend too long on any given one. The community map pack might be one of the most mid map packs that we have. You can see the range of ranks here. If I didn't mention it before, the T is tier, the R is rank on these graphics. Terraform Venus at 52, Drained Great Lakes on the opposite end of the pack at 74, a range of only 22 spots on our tier list originally. It's a very, very mid map. It averages out at 66.25. So just slightly below the Among Us map pack in the C tier is where we will end up placing the community map pack. My general recommendation as we go, and I'll mention this now, and if there's any exceptions I feel, I will point them out. But C tier and above, I think, are map packs that are reasonable to look at. I think as far as playing, if you want to pick ones out, maybe you don't have the money for all of the map packs, but you want to get a handful of them, I would recommend C tier and above. But obviously, S and A are going to be the ones that I would highly recommend, with B being close. And that brings us to our next map pack, which is the Countries and Continents map pack. That is that is going to land in the B tier. It is a 5 map pack. However, Countries and Continents has Russia 2010, not advanced, just the regular, as part of it, if it again ever returns to the game, which would make this a 6 map pack. Brazil is not counting against our scores in this one, so that 106 for Brazil in the original E tier won't impact it, but you can see Africa and Greece not super high on our list, but modern Spain is a top 5 favorite for me. Very fun map. I think it plays out very well every time, allows the best players to really finagle a win as long as they're optimally playing on that board. And this map pack does suffer a little bit from the lower ends, even with the third and fourth map, again, not including Brazil. So we will put this one in B tier. It's got an average score on those top 4 maps of 52.25 to land in the B tier, which brings us to its successor, which is Countries and Continents 2. It's only a 4 territory map pack, but they're all pretty solid. None of them too high, nothing cracking S tier, for example, or even high A, but nothing falling below B. Countries and Continents 2 does land with an average score of 41.75 of those 4 maps, and lands in our A tier, a perfectly viable map pack to look at. I think that New Zealand and Australia is one of the best non-advanced maps that has an advanced version of it. I think it works almost as well as the advanced version, but the advanced version has several extra territories, which I think it makes it a little bit more enjoyable. I think Japan is a perfectly serviceable map. I think Turkey is a great map for the progressive capital settings as well. And that is, again, what this tier list series and this video in particular is highlighting, is capitals with either progressive or exponential cards, not the per player cards modes, not fixed. So keep that in mind. Obviously, we played through all of the games with progressive. I don't think my opinion would change too much on many of these, with exponential being considered there as well. But Grip of the North, our 61 ranked map, is the bottom of this. It allows this map pack to do pretty well. But we're going to keep the pace going here. I don't want to spend too much time on our video. So next one is Dawn of the Dinos. This one is a fine map pack. It could certainly be worse. It's 4 maps with an average score of 77.25. And unfortunately, Dawn of the Dinos really struggles by not having any sort of map that is really, really good. No A, no S tier maps. Dino World barely squeaks into the B, but nothing too terrible, right? Stairs of Knowledge and Power at the lower end of D, but not too far down. Doesn't hurt it all that much. So this map pack averages out okay, but it does land in our D tier again because it is missing any sort of map that really sets it apart. We looked at, again, like the Among Us map, which had Airship at 13. Dawn of the Dinos top map of Dino World at 60, again, isn't going to push it into the upper echelon of map packs. Now, continuing on, the Dune map pack is a personal favorite of mine. I don't have many of these maps rated that highly. I think for these settings, they maybe aren't the best, but I do think maps like CH Tabor and Arrakeen Residence do play out in a fun way, even if they aren't necessarily optimized for the progressive capital settings. The Imperium at 114 doesn't get averaged in, as this is a 5 map pack, but the Dune map pack averages out at 75. That is actually right about where our tier break is going to be between Dune and Dawn of the Dinos. I have Dune in the bottom of the C tier for these maps, uh, for the map pack ranking. And again, I mentioned C and up as the ones that I would personally be interested, D and below, not so much. And I thought that Dune was one that I am still interested in, despite its similar score to the one directly below it. That brings us to the Empire's map pack, which is just below Dawn of the Dinos, actually, by 0.25 average. It's 77.5 for the Empire's map. This is a 5 map pack as well, same as the Dune map pack, but also similarly to the Dune map pack, this one suffers again from not having anything up into the S and A tier. Qing Dynasty is going to be our highest rated map in this map pack at 46. But then you start getting down in the C and D and even F tiers with the bottom of this. Obviously, Britannia not being averaged in, but I don't think the originals of Ottoman Empire or Roman Empire are particularly interesting maps. I think the advanced versions of those really open up the board enough that makes them fun and replayable, whereas the original versions of these are a little bit too clustered and congested in the middle of the board, which makes it harder to excel on these settings. So again, at a 77.5 average, this one does fall just below Dawn of the Dinos in the D tier. Now, this brings us to Enchanted Realms, which is a 4 map pack that also suffers similarly to many of these map packs that have come in the last few minutes, which is there's nothing that really pushes it up into the top of the no maps that are pushing it up, right? Nothing in the S or A tiers. Those are always the ones that I'm kind of looking for. I have a softer spot for some map packs that maybe don't rate so well in the other maps, but they have one that really brings that average down. This is not one of those map packs. I have never really been a huge fan of how Trigons plays out in progressive capitals. Those small bonuses generally give players early advantages, and then the card blocks are very, very easy on this on that map in particular. I think Moonstone's 1 point +4 is never great. I do like the concept that Overworld sort of includes the other 3 maps on it, but Seagrog's Fortress, as many of you remember from the video that we covered on that map, is genuinely one of my least favorite maps in the game. Independent of the fact that I have it in F tier, it might be a bottom 3 map for me, just in general in Risk. I've never enjoyed how it plays out. I can't in good faith put this map pack very high. Now, I will give a slight spoiler. We have one F tier map pack that rated so much lower than all of the other ones that it needed its own dedicated tier. Enchanted Realms is not one of them. Or not that map, rather. It averages out at 97. That does land it in E tier, which isn't particularly good, and I don't recommend it for play on these settings, but it is not the bottom of the barrel as far as the maps go. And neither is the next one. Europe places out up in the B tier, and it's going to be below countries and continents ever slightly, but not by a ton. It averages out with 4 maps at 58.5. And I understand I don't have the scores on the graphics. So you'll have to take my word for it. I'm reading them directly off of my spreadsheet. The Europe map pack, I think with only 4 maps, it is a little bit bare, because I don't think Classic Europe or Italian Conquest are particularly great maps for the progressive capital settings, but I do have a soft spot for Königsberg Siege, and I think Deutschland can be all right as long as the person that's in the middle, that middle bonus, the 2 territory one, has somebody that holds something else on the board that can rival them. It's a perfectly capable map pack. I don't think there's many problems with it, but I think it could certainly be better. And speaking of could certainly be better, this brings me to the fantasy map pack, which is next up on my list. And the fantasy map pack is a 5 map pack, which, again, I want to make it clear that I do have a little bit of a soft spot for the map packs that contain more maps, because I think that the more the merrier, right? But unfortunately, the fantasy map pack has an issue where Forsaken Lands is kind of the only decent map in the map pack, and all of the other ones are just not great on the progressive capital settings. I think Rivertown Advanced is similar in spirit to like Alcatraz, where everybody kind of acknowledges it isn't a very good map for these settings, but still enjoys playing it anyway. The other maps in this pack, though, are just not very good for progressive capitals, and I uh, won't drag it out any further. This one falls with a score of 93.75 into the E tier. It is going to land above Enchanted Realms, but not by a whole lot. And that brings us to our next map pack, which is the Feudal Japan map pack. I have one of my favorite maps in this map pack. I didn't necessarily score it crazy high. It's just A tier at 16. But Fort Goryokaku we play in streams and on the channel frequently. I think it's a lot of fun. I think 47 Ronin isn't bad. Himeji Remaster's all right. I think some of the bonuses on that are a little bit too strong. And I certainly made my opinion on the strength of the bonuses on Edo City as well. This is a 4-map map pack, but it does okay in our ratings. It falls into the B tier with a 53.5, just after the Countries and Continents map pack. I think there's a lot to like about Feudal Japan, and I unfortunately think Edo City's OP bonuses are a little bit of a stain on the on an otherwise solid map pack. I would recommend this one for people who enjoy uh, unique experiences in Risk. I think Fort Goryokaku and the other maps even provide that for the player. And to some extent, so does the Lost Cities map pack, which is the next up on our list. This one has an average score of 81.75, and that is going to land in our D tier, I believe, after both Dawn of the Dinos and Empires. The maps in this map pack, people may remember it was a long time ago, but they may remember my experience on the non-Medal map and potentially the Namachu and Pichu map as well. I don't particularly like either of those maps, but I think Troy is a super underrated map. I believe Archaeopteryx, longtime viewer of the channel, has requested that I play that on stream. Unfortunately, other people don't tend to want to play it, but I think it is a tremendous map, and arguably one that helps keep the Lost Cities map pack from being completely irrelevant, but it does not crack up into the C or higher tiers to be one that I would really recommend purchasing if you've got limited funds available for getting maps in the game. Now, our next map pack is one that I know my opinions on are maybe unpopular, particularly of the viewpoint of the Waterloo map, which is one of Risk's largest, I believe, either 4th or 5th largest map in the game. But I think that the Waterloo map is a prime example of, I guess we're going to do Napoleon's battles. I skipped Myths and Legends, but I'll go back to that in a moment. We'll continue on with the thoughts of Napoleon's battles. The Waterloo map, I think, is a prime example that large doesn't always equal good. I think that this one turns in on these settings into easy card block city / 1-point hold snowballs, and just never ends up being all that fun. I think that the map like Plancenoit is a fun map, but there's a chance that +6 in the middle of the board ends up with some crazy blizzard that makes it a 1-point hold. I think both Ligny and Charleroi have things to like and dislike. I think Charleroi the most balanced of all of these maps, but nothing that ever really makes me too excited about the map pack. The average score of these 4 maps comes in at 62.75. Lands in our C tier, and I believe that is above Dune, but and above Community, but not above Among Us. Is that correct? That is actually not correct. It is the top of the C tier. I've got it now. There we go. That was the one thing I didn't have well organized on my spreadsheet, was how they were ranked amongst each other, but I'm doing my best here. I am going to go back to the Myths and Legends map pack, which I incidentally skipped. This map pack has been sometimes called Fantasy 2, which is why I got a little bit jumbled in where it's positioned on my board, but for our graphics purposes, it should say Myths and Legends. I think the Younger Scrolls and Jules Verne are both pretty underrated maps. I've mentioned how unbalanced Dracula's Castle is with the 1 point+5, similarly to the Los Angeles map, which we'll cover its map pack in a little bit. And then Lost Temple, I know, is a map that some other content creators and players in general enjoy. I have never particularly found it to be a very enjoyable map pack, or map rather. So this map pack, despite having some decent B tier maps, doesn't end up placing very high. It's going to be at an average of 84, landing in the D tier behind the Lost Cities map pack. So that's where we're going to land with Myths and Legends, which brings us to New World Views. This one has an average score across its 4 maps of 50.5, landing in the middle of the B tier, I believe. That should be above. It might actually be the top of B tier. Yeah, it's going to be the top of B tier, just above Countries and Continents. And 50.5 average is decent. I think it's really, really held back. This map pack, and I see why I have it in B tier. It's basically 3 good maps and 1 completely terrible one for the progressive capital settings. I know we have our series on the channel with Simple World, which is fun in that context of what we're trying to do. But for replayability and rank up ideas on the progressive capital settings, I can't justify Simple World being a map that people should play. However, Earth 2209, I think, is a very underrated and very solid map. I think it's the last one in our S tier, but it deserves to be there. Pangea, a very good map for these settings. And Reverse World, certainly not bad. So I think that this map pack is definitely worth it to get. But know that when you're getting it, unless you enjoy the silly fun that is Simple World, you're probably only getting 3 good maps that are good for like rank up settings and hosting your own lobbies for non-troll purposes, like what we do with our bi-weekly Wednesday videos on the Simple World map. Which brings us to what I believe to be the most interesting map pack in the rotation, which is Northern Conquest. And the reason I think Northern Conquest is one of the most interesting maps in our rotation, this one averages out at 59.5. That is going to be right after the Europe map pack up in the B tier. Now, this one has currently 5 maps. However, if the Russian maps that are currently omitted from the game return, Moscow and Moscow Advanced were originally part of this map pack, making it a 7 map pack if those maps ever return, which would certainly make it more appealing to invest in. And I do think some of the top maps in this map pack also make it worthwhile. Now, Bohus Fortress, I do kind of enjoy sometimes, but I think suffers drastically from really, really easy card blocks and potential crazy 1-point holds on the board. Iceland is not counting against our average score here of that 58 or 59.5 rather. But you've got Stockholm and Lubeck, both A tier maps that I have, and I think Stockholm is one of the most underrated maps in all of Risk. I can't recommend this map pack enough, honestly. I don't think the score really does it justice for how good of a map Stockholm is, and Lubeck being pretty decent. Iceland, if you're looking for some troll games, and again, if the Moscow maps ever return, then this one really would likely skyrocket up my rankings. And if you're wondering at this point, I've mentioned the Russia maps. I know somebody had said, oh, Simone, are you ever going to look at those? You could just look at how the map is structured and rank them on the tier list. I want to be able to play the map. I have actually never played those maps before they were removed. So I think that it would be doing a disservice to the maps and the tier list itself to try to rank those just by staring at them. I want to be able to play them and see how they feel. And that will bring us to our next map pack, which is the first of the 2 pirate map packs. This is a 4 map pack at 73.75 average, falls into the C tier. And I think that is going to land likely at the bottom of our C tier, or right above Dune. It should be right above Dune. So the pirate map pack right here, again, above Dune. It's not bad. It doesn't have, again, one of those maps that is real good. I think Seaport's a pretty underrated map. In our B tier, Skull and Crossbones is fine. Blackbeard's Wrath has like a crazy 1-point hold on the right-hand side of the board. And then the Pirate's Bay has quite literally the most broken bonuses in all of Risk. I think it's intentional, but it leads to ridiculous snowballs when you're playing with Fog, because some players don't even realize that you've got the crazy plus 13 bonus or whatever, and then things get out of hand. So I don't have much else to say about the Pirate map pack other than the fact that Pirate 2 is better. With Risk's new largest map pack, Pirate 2 has Port Royal, which is in our A tier. I think Tortuga and Cursed Hand Caves are okay maps. I have had a horrendous time historically of trying to play the Stinkpot Cove map, but I don't think it's god awful. I think it's perfectly fine. The Pirate 2 map pack averages out at 51.25, which lands in our the upper part of our B tier, I think just behind the New World Views map pack. So that one enters into the conversation of being one that I would generally recommend to people. I know that we've been seeing a lot of videos across all of us content creators channels lately on that Pirate 2 map pack, and I think that that one's certainly a decent map pack. Now, the next map pack is the premium map pack. I think I would like to put a little bit of an asterisk on that, because premium, when you get it, comes with more than just the maps, but these 6 maps that you see on screen right now are included in that. This one averages out at 45.75. And again, that's only for the first 4 maps in this map pack. There are 6 total. I have never been particularly fond of the original United States map on the progressive capital settings. France is just simply too small. People step on each other's toes. Nobody holds a bonus, and the game stalemates forever. But the top 4 maps here, Asia 1800s, I think is a really, really great map. Classic Frozen, World Conquest are just better versions of the classic map, in my opinion. And then Central America is a perfectly reasonable map. The premium map pack ends up being a totally decent map up in the A tier. We don't have a lot in the A tier, so I'm totally fine putting this one up there at a 45.75 average amongst those top 4 maps. And that should land, I believe, behind the continents, countries and continents too. But again, still up there in A tier. Perfectly happy with that. Which brings us to Resistor is Futile. This one is a 4 map pack with an average of 74. And you can see, well, I'll first put it where it needs to be because I know where it's supposed to be. This one lands in the C tier between Pirate and Dune. All very close scores in this range. I think that Emergency Calls and GPU are both pretty decent maps. I almost maybe think that GPU is lower than it originally should have been. Command and Controller, I think, is right about where it should be, with that 1-point bonus on the right-hand side that everybody always fights over. Ends up making that side of the map hotly contested, and I can't in good faith put that map any higher. And then I think Mother of All Boards, despite being a fun Moab, Mother of All Bombs play on words situation here, I think it's a relatively awful map. So I don't think that Resistor is Futile will be placing very high for me. But it's a perfectly decent map pack with some of those maps being a little bit underrated at the top. Now, the next map pack is one that I think suffers from, similarly to an issue that we had with the New World Views map pack, which is the Sci-Fi map pack. We have a lot of great maps at the top of the Sci-Fi map pack. This one has an average of 47.75 in our B tier. that should put it right behind the premium map pack. So there's actually a split there where premium ends up in A. This one's going to be the very top of B tier. That's where I decided to make a split there. But I think that the maps in the Sci-Fi map pack are pretty solid maps. So Redacted, I think, is one of the most underrated maps in Risk. I think Command Base T1X plays out interestingly, as does Spaceport Sigma. Very frequently, you see people play those maps all the time. And then I think Lunar Mining Facility is just generally a pretty bad map and heavily weighs this map pack down, unfortunately. Now we have 8 map packs remaining. Strongholds and Castles, I think, is a very, very solid map pack. Mont Saint Michel is a very enjoyable map. I think Himeji Castle's pretty decent. Red Sands Fort as well. And I think Conway is fine. It's not rated particularly well by me, but it does produce somewhat enjoyable games every now and then. Strongholds and Castles comes out with an average of 42. That ends up being our 4th highest ranked in total, I believe. Just behind Countries and Continents 2, and lands up in our A tier. I think a lot of those castle maps, in particular Mont Saint Michel, are a lot of fun to play, and I highly recommend that map pack as well. Speaking of relatively recommended map packs, the Universal Domination map pack that has both SMG Spaceport and a personal favorite of mine, despite not being rated too highly in our tier list, Orbital Objectives. This one comes out with an average of 44.25, also in the A tier, is going to be just in front of the premium map pack. These ones are all very, very solid map packs to look at. We've got 6 more remaining on our list. And without further ado, I will touch on the US Cities map pack, which is up next. It's got an average of 64.75 across its 4 maps. And the reason for that is because I have 2 very highly rated maps, including an S tier map of Las Vegas. Las Vegas might actually be my personal favorite map. I understand the appeal of Europe Advanced, and that's why it's number 1 on our tier list. But I just have a soft spot for the Las Vegas map. I think it's a lot of fun. I have a soft spot for the Boston map. We have that in A tier. But unfortunately, in back-to-back rankings in the E tier lie Los Angeles and New York, New York. Both pretty terrible maps for progressive capitals. I mentioned Dracula's Castle with its 1 point plus 5. I think that the Los Angeles 1 point plus 5 is slightly less of a problem, but still kind of a big problem on the board, and makes that map very difficult to have success on unless you have that 1 point. And so I generally can't put the US Cities map pack too high because of those qualms that I have with half of the maps in the map pack. Despite how much I love the other 2 maps, you're paying for all 4, and half of them are not very good. That's going to land us in the C tier, unfortunately. I believe behind Napoleon's Battles. Is it above Among Us? It is not. It's going to be right here after the Among Us map pack. And that is where it lands. Again, I'm using our averages, so the tier list should reflect the exact averages that you could calculate on your screen across all of the images that have shown up throughout the duration of this video. And we'll have 5 more images that'll show up as we continue on with the USA Advanced Map Pack. This one averages out with the 4 maps at 43.25. It has one of my, what I believe to be one of the most underrated maps in all of Risk, which is the US South map. I think that map is a heck of a lot of fun. I rated that in the high A, mid to high A, and then I also had US West and US Midwest in A. I think it really deserves to be a well-rated map pack. Unfortunately, again, you're paying for all 4 maps in the map pack, and the US Northeast map is bad. It's just not a good map. I can't beat around the bush there. I've got it in the lower end of E tier, but even then it's terrible. It's a really bad map, and so you're paying for 3 good maps here. This one's going to land still with that average score in the A tier, just behind the Strongholds and Castles map pack. However, So it still does pretty well. I'm not upset with where it's rated because those 3 maps carry so well. They all play out very fun, which brings us, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned a spoiler earlier about how I would only have one F tier map, averaging out at an average score across its 4 maps of 112.75. We have the Viking Conquest map pack. Now, I want to make it clear, I think Battle of Svolder is a fun but incredibly unbalanced map in terms of how it plays out in these settings. I enjoy the games that we have on there, but I also recognize that its design is not particularly good for progressive capitals, and neither are the other 4 maps in this map pack. I think End of the King and Lindisfarne Raid both play out very similarly. I think Greenland Saga is just a terrible map. I've never enjoyed how it plays. Even clicking on some of the territories is unreliable. I don't like it. It's too small. People don't let each other hold any bonuses on it, despite how small the bonuses are. It's just a mess. And it usually has some crazy 1 point hold on it with the way that the Blizzards function. Viking Conquest is far and away my belief to be the worst map pack in all of Risk. I don't recommend getting it. I'm not even sure I recommend getting it even if you can afford it, only because nobody really ever plays these maps anyway. I would only get it if you enjoy silly games on Battle of Svolder, and even then, I'm not sure I would particularly recommend it. That's Viking Conquest in a nutshell. Not going to go further into it. Now, there's a market improvement as far as Vikings go in the Viking Legends map pack, at least for Way to Valhalla and Roots of Yggdrasil. I think Ratatoskr can be fun, but is relatively unbalanced for progressive capitals. And then I think Yggdrasil, the World Tree, is just Stalemate City because of how balanced the outside bonuses are on that. If you manage to get a 1 point that holds 2 of them, you get a little bit of a leg up. But with progressive capitals, it's very difficult to create any sort of advantage on a map like that over other opponents, unless you are uncontested and those opponents are contesting each other, in which case the board just feels unbalanced to begin with. Now, the Viking Legends map pack with 2 good maps in Way to Valhalla and Roots of Yggdrasil ends up landing at a 75.5, which does hit into the C tier just below the Dune map pack and sits just above Dawn of the Dinos in the D tier. So this one does manage to squeak by into C based off of how I've split everything up, but it's at the very bottom of C. So I'm not, if you got a subset of maps that you're looking at, I wouldn't put this one in there unless you really think like Ratatoskr and Friends and some of those other maps are interesting for their gimmicks that they have. And that brings us to our 2 final maps. We have the original zombie map pack, which has, again, one of the underrated maps in Risk of 28 turns later. That landed in our A tier originally. But as far as progressive capitals go, between the potential stalemates or potential easy card blocks that happen, Maul of the Dead, Alcatraz, and Supermax Prison all generally bring down the rating of this map pack. I think Alcatraz and Supermax can be fun with the right settings. Maybe you throw some portals in there or something. But on just straight progressive capitals, it's either a stalemate or it's a card block where you're just sitting there waiting to lose or waiting to win, right? Like, I don't think they're pretty interesting maps for this style of gameplay. This map pack averages out at a 91.5, landing in the E tier, just above the Enchanted Realms map pack, but I believe below Fantasy. I should have it below Fantasy. No, I actually have it above Fantasy. Okay, the top of the E tier then for zombies. And then finally, Zombie 2 map pack at a 73.75 average. This one gets placed into our C tier, just above the Pirate map pack, the original Pirate map pack. And the good and the bad about the Zombie 2 map pack. First off, State of Emergency and City of the Dead, I think, are both pretty solid maps. Dead End Depot, I've had a lot of fun playing on stream and even in some videos on the channel, but it's inherently unbalanced for the progressive capitals with Fog and Blizzard's mode because of how frequent 1 point holds, especially over the area that ends up equating out to like a plus 14. How frequent those end up being with the Blizzard configurations. And then Ground Zero, I think, is a pretty terrible map. Crazy 1 point holds, crazy easy card blocks, people stepping on each other's toes. Just generally unfun gameplay occurs on that map, which is why I can't rate that one very highly. But that is the comprehensive map pack tier list. If you're looking to get a map pack, I can't go further than recommending the Advanced 2 or Advanced maps. I can't recommend them highly enough. Any of the A tier map packs are solid additions. And honestly, even the B tier, I would maybe be a little bit picky about some of the C tier ones. I think US Cities is a decent one to look at. The Among Us map pack is decent. I have a soft spot for the Dune map pack, but I would say any of the ones that land in the C tier are going to have decent maps that are fun to play and certainly have replayability. As far as the maps overall, stay tuned on the channel. I may have a community post. We may be able to give some of the S tier map packs away with a code for all of you. I'm unsure about that at this time, but stay tuned. I may have something either in the comments down below or in a community post on the channel in the future. But in the meantime, this has been Tier List Tuesday, everybody. We will be back in either September or October with the new Sci-Fi 2 map pack, and I will update this tier list on the final one of those new maps. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. If you have any questions about any map packs in particular or any comments, drop them down below. Otherwise, I hope you have enjoyed Tier List Tuesday. We will update it as new map packs are released. But otherwise, now you know what to look at. Now you know my thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. Hit the like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I've put many hours of work into this video specifically for all of you, so I would appreciate it if you did those things. As always, everybody, I have been C-Money. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a tremendous rest of your day. Peace.